Greetings, curious acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to another lore compilation. We have been expecting you. Today, our archivists have culminated all of our Cad Bane lore into one gigantic video. Stretching roughly an hour long, this Cad Bane lore compilation can be put on while you're doing one task, like errands, doing a job, cooking, or whatever have you. You easily could just watch this, however, if you are a 100% dedicated Star Wars fan like many others in the comments section that view my videos. However, that's not for me to decide. It is up to you. This lore compilation compiles the majority of the videos we have done on Cad Bane, one of the greatest bounty hunters, if not the greatest bounty hunter to have ever lived, and one of the greatest Star Wars characters in all of the lore's history. Well, my friends, this is where we part ways. Enjoy the lore compilation, and remember, I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away. Greetings, mercenaries, members of the guild, and Mandalorians, and welcome back to the archives. I have been expecting you. Recently, our researchers have been scouring the galaxy to uncover some more lore regarding around the famed Derosian bounty hunter Cad Bane, one of, if not the undisputed greatest bounty hunter to have ever lived. Cad Bane was equipped with a variety of weaponry that allowed him to go toe-to-toe with some of the most powerful Jedi of his era, with his prime primarily being in the Clone Wars. He was able to fight Jedi such as Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan Kenobi, two highly acclaimed Jedi Masters. He was even able to fight Ahsoka Tano and Anakin Skywalker at points during the Clone Wars. Cad Bane was an exceptionally skilled mercenary and widely regarded as the best in the business after Jango Fett's untimely demise at the hands of Mace Windu during the Battle of Geonosis. Cad Bane saw his chance and he took it, becoming one of the greatest and most efficient bounty hunters in galactic history, taking every job he could that conceived the possibility of Jedi being the target, or very likely that Jedi would be involved in some method with regards to the mission. Cad Bane always chose missions with Jedi, believing this was his claim to fame. He specifically outlined his arsenal to fight Jedi and Force wielders, allowing him to combat those he respected but did not fear. Cad Bane has mainly said that he greatly respects the Force as well as those that wield it. However, unlike many others, he does not fear them. However, today we are going to be taking a look into Cad Bane more psychologically and mentally. Cad Bane has uniquely quick reflexes for a modern bounty hunter, being faster than Jango Fett, Dirge, Boba Fett, and many of the notable ancient bounty hunters that arrived before him. And through this, I have come up with a theory, a feasible idea that potentially could lead to a long string of theory videos that we will release on the channel. And this revolves around the concept that Cad Bane might be Force sensitive. Well, my friends, allow us to immerse ourselves in the archives, grab a cantina, and let us proceed. To start off, I believe we have to note that Cad Bane was an exceptionally skilled bounty hunter, being faster on the draw than nearly anyone in the galaxy's history. He was successfully able to outduel Cobb Vanth, who in himself was able to murder 3 Pike Syndicate official guards who were smuggling spice into Mos Pelgo, now known as Freetown. Before he could even react, Cad Bane was also able to outduel the deputy, who was Cobb Vanth's right-hand official, at the same time, plucking him with 3 blaster bolts to the direct chest, killing him instantly. Cad Bane was able to fight against Fennec Shen, quickly whipping out his blaster in time before Fennec Shen kicked it out of his hand and it clattered to the floor. Another thing we should note is during his duel with Hunter in the Bad Batch, Hunter, being a genetically enhanced clone, allowed Hunter to thoroughly pursue a battle with Cad Bane, believing he would be victorious. However, Cad Bane's experience as a seasoned mercenary and gun for hire gave him the edge, with Hunter, despite having a genetic mutation that allowed him to have much higher senses than a normal individual, with Hunter feasibly being able to sense when Cad Bane was going to be able to pick up his blaster before he even did it. Still lost, purely due to Cad Bane's overwhelming speed. It's a true testament to his immense speed and formidability in combat. Cad Bane was also able to devise entirely new strategies on the fly to deal with Jedi such as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Quinlan Vos, always using his weaponry sparingly, in the most strategic method possible. such as launching a ball and chain at Quinlan Voss's legs when he was leaping up into the air to degrade the speed of his pursuers, allowing him to swiftly escape. Cad Bane used rocket boosts to speed up into the air, flying while launching flamethrowers, which are impervious to being blocked by lightsabers, down below his enemies, one of his primary weapons. Cad Bane was even able to out-duel Boba Fett, the heir to the legacy of Jango Fett, Cad Bane's original mentor in the ways of the bounty hunter. Cad Bane was able to out-duel Boba, who in himself was a gunslinging prodigy. Boba Fett has been repeatedly been confirmed to be in his prime at the time of the Book of Boba Fett finale, meaning that Cad Bane and Boba were both dueling on equal ground, despite the fact that Cad Bane was over 3 decades older than Boba, with Boba being 41 and Cad Bane being roughly around 70. Cad Bane was able to keep up with Boba, even exceeding him by landing 2 shots on his right shoulder, penetrating through the Beskar armor by shooting a dislodged point, which was very rare, as during a deleted scene from the Clone Wars Season 7 which saw Cad Bane and Boba Fett face off in an altercation. We can see that Cad Bane is shot in the head while he tries to shoot Boba in the head. Downing the Beskar steel would block his modified LL-30 blaster pistols, ultimately resulting in Cad Bane being nearly killed and incapacitated, with his title of the best bounty hunter being briefly stolen by Boba Fett. Cad Bane was considered to have severely deteriorated due to his age, being around the same standard lifespan of a human, that of 70 years old. His species, the Duros, were considered that once the Duros lived past their 60th birthday, they were considered elderly, and primarily did not live past the age of 75, meaning that Cad Bane at the time he fought Boba Fett was already on the latter end of age in all actuality. When we look at other gunslingers and mercenaries such as Han Solo, the famed rebel pilot and leader that was one of the pivots in the Galactic Civil War, we can see that Han Solo always had a knack for flying, being able to pilot various mechanical starships in a pristine way that was nigh unrivaled by many others in all of galactic history. Han Solo was also very fast on the draw, being able to outduel Tobias Beckett before Beckett had even finished speaking and before he had even raised his hand to his gun. His blaster penetrated through Beckett, allowing Han Solo to gain the upper edge and immediately kill his foe. These are some similarities between Han Solo and Cad Bane. They always seem to be on top of the situation whatever they are in. Cad Bane calculated, and Han Solo, as well as Cad Bane, was exceptionally fast on the draw. I would personally love to see a gunslinging duel and confrontation between these two, as I truly believe it would be a really interesting altercation to see who would prevail in the end. Personally, I believe that Han Solo would lose, and Cad Bane, due to his more experience, would ultimately prevail over Han due to his experience and his pure talent. There is one thing I would like to note, however, that Cad Bane was slightly force sensitive. It is important to note that with the aspects of midichlorians, which we've already covered a numerous amount of times on this channel, is that the average human was born with a midichlorian count of around 1500, with beings such as Lando Calrissian, Bail Organa, and many others normal humans like us were born with that midichlorian count, meaning we were unable to tap into the Force itself in its entirety. Average Jedi midichlorian counts for members of the High Council was around 13 to 15,000 midichlorians per cell. The weakest initiates of the Jedi Order were stated to roll around the midichlorian count of 6,000, and these were the weakest initiates who barely qualified to be the Jedi in the first place. Cad Bane and Han Solo were both considered to have a slightly above average midichlorian count, with Boba Fett considering having roughly 1,700, if not slightly lower, around the same as his father due to the genetic implication that Boba Fett was born out of, without having a mother, and was a purely genetic replica of his father. Cad Bane was estimated at having a midichlorian count roughly 3,000 midichlorians per cell, allowing him to sense things before they happened, picking the opportune moment to strike, primary being the reason why he was such a good gunslinger. Of course, this is all speculation and an educated guess based on my research. However, I cannot ignore that due to Cad Bane's praise as being one of the greatest gunslingers in all of Star Wars history, I cannot ignore the fact that he had to have been a little bit force sensitive, even if only slightly above the average, within the range of 2,000 to 3,000 midichlorians per cell. Han Solo, of course, was estimated to be around 2,500. Personally, why I believe he would lose a duel with Cad Bane in the gunslinging is due to the fact that he had a lesser midichlorian count. Cad Bane was able to perceive when his enemies would strike, always going faster. His reflexes were impeccable, beyond anyone else in all of Star Wars history. He became close to a genuine Jedi with a Force sensitivity seemingly rivaling that of an average Jedi initiate, being able to sense when things were about to happen before they even happened, and being able to perceive when his opponents would strike by detecting their movements. Something was incredibly rare in the Star Wars galaxy. Well, my friends, what did you think of this hypothesis about if Cad Bane, my favourite bounty hunter and one of my favourite characters in all of Star Wars lore, was actually Force sensitive? Cad Bane certainly could be Force sensitive, but like I said previously, this is all purely speculation and an educated guess based on numerous sources such as The Bad Batch, comics, the Book of Boba Fett, and of course Star Wars The Clone Wars TV show, meaning that the debate may very well stop here. I'm really enjoying posting more Star Wars content out for you guys. I'm trying to upload as much as I can, but due to the fact I'm managing multiple YouTube channels, it is getting quite difficult. So, it would really mean the world to me if you could show your support by clicking the subscribe button, liking the video, and sharing it with your friends in order to educate them on the rich world of Star Wars. Goodbye, my friends. This is where we part ways, mercenaries, and I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away. Greetings, friends, mercenaries, and members of the guild, and welcome back to our archives. We have been expecting you. You have arrived at the perfect moment. Our researchers have just uncovered some data from the Book of Boba Fett TV show. They speculated and analysed on the death of Cad Bane during the Book of Boba Fett, and whether it was actually true. If you want to know the answer to this question and our personal opinion on it, go check out a video that we linked in the description. Cad Bane was a mercenary unlike any other before him, establishing himself as a ruthless, intelligent, tactical, and strategic bounty hunter beyond any that you would ever see in the Star Wars galaxy. Cad Bane had a license to kill, and as long as the pay was right, he would accept any job, even jobs, especially jobs, that involved the powerful and nigh undefeatable Force-wielding Jedi. Cad Bane specifically outlined his arsenal to fight against these Force-imbued combatants, allowing his unique gauntlets, equipped with stunners, cortosis bullets, and dual-mounted flamethrowers, as well as his jet boosters, in order to combat Jedi, and even more importantly, Sith. Cad Bane works heavily in league with the Sith, being one of the few individuals in the entire galaxy before the reign of the Empire who was contacted directly by Darth Sidious via hologram. Darth Sidious did this multiple times during Cad Bane's career during the Clone Wars, and what many would call his prime, primarily during Cad Bane's raid on the Jedi Temple, where he supplied him with a security chip that analysed every single security detail within the entirety of the temple, informing Cad Bane of every single lock and key within the holocron vault that Darth Sidious required. But there is one accessory that we have not really touched upon yet, that being Cad Bane's iconic breathing tubes. Cad Bane's iconic face, fit with his, well, more or less nose, his pale crimson eyes, and blueberry blue skin, was equipped with twin breathing devices. These breathing devices coiled into a device that was inserted into his back. This device was seen throughout Cad Bane's career, only being exported away from him when he was imprisoned with Moralo Evol and Rako Hardeen, who was secretly disguised as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Cad Bane was taken in prisoner, and his breathing devices were taken away and confiscated by the prison guard, believing that they could contain some kind of weapon, when in reality they were purely a last line of defense. Cad Bane employed these breathing tubes for an incredible and awesome reason. As did he employ his other weapons to fight Jedi. Cad Bane specifically had in mind the Sith when he installed these breathing devices and respirator within his throat. Cad Bane was one to never underestimate his opponents. He always picked his fights carefully and would always outline his arsenal to take on the Jedi. But the Jedi weren't really his main threat. His main threat was the Sith, as I stated beforehand. Cad Bane worked heavily in league with Sith Lords such as Darth Maul, Count Dooku, and Darth Sidious during the budding time of his career and during his peak during the Clone Wars, going so far as to even being contacted directly by Sidious. Cad Bane employed these respirators early into his career. He saw that the Jedi, while being noble and peacekeeping diplomats, were not prone to various techniques. He knew he'd have to step up his game if he was going to become famous like his hero and idol Jango Fett. Jango had made a name for himself by killing multiple Jedi Padawans with his bare hands, using his brutal Mandalorian culture and society and training. Cad Bane wanted to replicate this, but in a unique way, using tactics and various weapons to utterly overwhelm the Force-wielding Jedi such as toxic gas and flamethrowers. Cad Bane specifically employed these breathing devices to stop people from being Force-choked. He didn't need them. It wasn't like Darth Vader or Darth Malgus. For those who don't know, Darth Malgus was heavily injured during the Battle of Alderaan, where after being exploded with a grenade, shot in the face with a rocket launcher, had an enormous force wave puncturing him within a mountain, and then taking place in the novel Deceived, we can see that Darth Malgus, prior to the Battle of Coruscant, fought against two Jedi and had two buildings collapse on him, causing his servant and later lover, Alina Daru, forced to install a breathing respirator in order for him to stay alive. Despite this, Malgus felt no pain. Darth Vader, of course, was maimed and incinerated and burned on Mustafar, with his entire organs and lungs being reduced to nothing but a charred husk of what they once were. Cad Bane had no such health condition or no such disability. Cad Bane merely chose to have them installed into his cheeks. Cad Bane used these to stop Jedi and Sith from Force choking him. Although the Jedi were peacekeeping diplomats and not often employed Force choke, rare ones such as Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, and Luke Skywalker during Return of the Jedi. Only 5 years before Cad Bane would meet his untimely demise during the battle with Freetown, Cad Bane knew that the Jedi, despite their nobility and pride, would, if the situation got worse, employ such hazardous techniques. They would employ them in the hope that they would kill him, making a swift end to his opponent despite the Jedi Code. In doing this, they would defile the Jedi Code. But Cad Bane knew that in the end, despite the fact they might be expelled from the Order, or multiple other punishments made to fall him, he would die. So, he installed these breathing devices, causing an oxygen pipe to funnel through his throat and feed oxygen into his lungs, not causing any external damage, meaning that if any Jedi or Sith attempted to force choke him, the oxygen that was being filtered and siphoned through his throat would continue and would allow him to remain in the game, allowing him to pick up his LL-30 blaster pistols and catch his very surprised enemy off guard. This would effectively make Cad Bane the most lethal, non-force sensitive in the galaxy when it came to fighting Jedi and Sith, allowing Cad Bane to truly become the greatest Jedi-killing bounty hunter in all of Star Wars lore. Well, my friends, what did you think of this breakdown of the awesome and insane reason Cad Bane uses his breathing tubes despite not needing them? I hope that you're enjoying this Cad Bane information that we are putting out. Cad Bane is one of, if not my favourite Star Wars character of all time. His ruthless and tactical nature truly shimmers through the Clone Wars, and the episodes where he, Rako Hardeen, and Moralo Evol are plotting a plot to kill the Chancellor and kidnap him and force him to release all Separatist prisoners is truly something that I marvel at, and truly one of the highlighted arcs in the entirety of the Clone Wars. Goodbye, my friends, mercenaries, and bounty hunters. Be sure to check the bounty board before you go, as there are always more dangerous bounty hunters in the vast galaxy.
I've grown from a man to a god.
and welcome back to the archives of our channel, students of the Force, weary travelers of the galaxy, and skilled mercenaries of the underworld. I have been expecting you. Now, I've seen many rumors and theories and speculations circulating within the Star Wars community recently about Cad Bane. Cad Bane obviously being the most famous Derosian bounty hunter, and probably the most famous bounty hunter besides the likes of Boba Fett, and maybe Jango Fett if people don't watch the animated shows. And if you don't watch the animated shows and haven't watched the Clone Wars, then click off and never watch this video again. Actually, no, I'm joking. Go watch the Clone Wars, then come back and watch this video, or watch this video if you don't want to watch the Clone Wars. Either one is acceptable. Now, Cad Bane's resurgence during the events of the Book of Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett being one of the most recent Star Wars media and adventures that Disney Plus has embarked on, incorporating an incredible CGI, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill from just after Return of the Jedi, 5 years to be exact, as well as Ahsoka Tano, the overrated, albeit fan-favorite character, and practically these days the entire face of Star Wars lore. Now, during the events of the Book of Boba Fett, we obviously have Cad Bane's death, and if you've seen that video, I personally do not believe that Cad Bane is dead. I believe that Dave Filoni is just deceiving us, and I believe that Cad Bane will return in a later Star Wars show. The main reason I wanted to address this is actually leading into the topic of today's video, which I find to be very, very, very interesting, and it's why Cad Bane's appearance and attire was so altered during the events of Book of Boba Fett. If we see in the events of the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, which just takes place not even a year after the events of the Clone Wars, we can see that Cad Bane has his sapphire skin that's a very dark coloured blue, his fiery eyes that have no pupils, blinking back at us, and then we can also see that Cad Bane seems to be in a much better condition. But during the event of the Book of Boba Fett, like I said, I love the show, we see Cad Bane, a more washed up version of Cad Bane. Now, this version of Cad Bane, I believe, will be more skilled than the version and more experienced than the version we see in the Bad Batch and the Clone Wars. Despite me believing that the version in the Clone Wars, despite being in his 50s, which was the age of Cad Bane, and if you didn't know his species, the Duros, being a Durosian bounty hunter, typically lives to the age of 70, like that of a normal human, except a bit less. So Cad Bane, during this time, is very extremely old. This is like a 70 or possibly even older year old human. We have been given confirmation that Cad Bane's species, the Duros, ages almost identically to that of human. So whenever you see a human's age, you essentially see Cad Bane's age. Not like beings such as the Hutts or Yoda species, which can live for many, 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 many centuries and possibly even a millennia. In Mama's case, Mama the Hutt from the Clone Wars, go and watch that episode. It's very interesting. We see Cad Bane look more washed up. The colour has partially drained from his flesh. Predominantly on his face, he appears to have a lot less blue and mainly consists of a very light, either very light grey or very, very light blue. Although I do believe that his colour still has some merit and is still partially blue. However, there is unquestionable evidence that Cad Bane does look different. However, he still seems to retain all his typical weaponry, such as his E11 blaster pistols, his long coat, his wide-brimmed iconic hat, and his 2 metallic breathing tubes that prevent him from being force choked. However, there are wrinkles that are getting etched upon his eyes. This means that Cad Bane is extremely old. He's about 70 years old at this point, and that's incredible to still be hunting bounties. And as we can see in the Book of Boba Fett, he was able to take on Boba Fett. He almost killed Boba Fett, despite Boba Fett being 41, 30 years younger than Cad Bane is at the time, with Cad Bane being 71, born in the year 62 ABY, 62 years before the Battle of Yavin, and dying, well, what we presume to be death, as I have already covered. I don't believe Cad Bane is dead, in the year 9 ABY. Now, the main boiling point of this entire video, which is why Cad Bane looks different, and I personally just believe it's age. Or it also could be just adapting a animation character into a live action format. Could just be that, but I personally think it's age. As I said, Cad Bane's species only lives up to roughly 70 years, the same as a human. And Cad Bane is now, well, what we presume to be 71 years old if his death is noted in 9 ABY, and that is actually when he died, which I'd be quite disappointed if he did, if I'm honest. But yeah, that's the main reason why Cad Bane looks so different. It could just boil down to turning an animation character, one of the best animation characters in all of cinema from the Clone Wars TV show, into a live action TV show. But I personally think it's age. I think Cad Bane will serve a role similar to that and akin to that of Clint Eastwood. A washed out gun for hire, but still has a few good fights left in him. And I'm sure Cad Bane, even though Boba Fett, as we have seen during his prime, he stated in the Bacta tank that he is in his prime. The Bacta had fully healed his wounds. I do believe that Cad Bane will return. I strongly impose this theory. However, it could be wrong, but I don't think Dave Filoni would kill off Cad Bane just for the point of killing him off. He gave him the lamest death in 2 seconds, but if he did, well, that's the way Star Wars works. But yeah, I don't believe that Cad Bane is dead. But yep, that's why Cad Bane looks so different in the Book of Boba Fett. I theorized, speculated, and I hypothesized for hours on end about this, of why Cad Bane could be like this old. And then I did some research, unveiled more holocrons, and discovered Cad Bane was exceeding the lifespan of his species. And while I know it would be tremendous fan service to get Cad Bane back in the business, maybe back in Book of Boba Fett Season 2, I doubt that Dave Filoni will do it, or Kathleen Kennedy. I think Dave Filoni wants to do it, but I doubt that Kathleen Kennedy would let him. And yeah, that's the main reason. Personally, I think it's just age. Cad Bane's very old, but he's still immensely skilled. As we saw in the Book of Boba Fett finale, he was nearly able to kill Boba Fett, one of the most skilled mercenaries and guns for hire in the entire galaxy, who, by the way, was 30 years younger than him. 3 entire decades, and Cad Bane also taught him. So, yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope you have enjoyed the daily Star Wars lore that we are uploading. I'm sure that you love Cad Bane. If you have decided and deducted this video would be a good one to watch, I hope that you enjoy this video. Be sure to strike down the subscribe button if you wish to ascend to the rank of Master. With that out of the way, Acolytes, I bid you farewell, and I hope that I will not have you on the receiving end of my blaster pistol today. Okay, now, greetings Acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the archives of our channel. I have been expecting you. I have been analysing and observing, and through my observations, I have seen that a lot of theories, ideas, and speculations have been forming about the Book of Boba Fett. Most importantly, the fan favourite character that appeared during it, and no, I'm not talking about Ahsoka, as most overrated characters as she is. I am talking about Cad Bane, the Drosian bounty hunter with the known and well-known iconic wide-brimmed hat, his blazing fiery red eyes, and pointed jagged fangs that lined the depths of his mouth. Yeah, that Cad Bane. In my opinion, the greatest bounty hunter in all of Star Wars history, in the Clone Wars in particular, was when he reached his peak. Now, if you didn't know, during the events of the Book of Boba Fett, which if you haven't seen, I would be very, very disappointed in you. During the events of this TV show, which I have to admit is one of my favourite TV shows in all of Star Wars lore, absolutely love it. I love seeing Cad Bane. He was definitely the highlight for me. He's possibly the only character that's the superior or equal to Darth Malgus, in my opinion, who, as you know, if you've watched my videos on the channel, I absolutely love. Anyway, let's get into the video. Cad Bane, during the events and Battle of Mos Espa, where Boba Fett was riding and mounting upon his Rancor in the streets, warding off the Pike Syndicate invasion force, Cad Bane and Boba engaged in a duel, with Cad Bane eventually lying on the floor and Boba Fett impaling him through the chest with his Gaddafi stick. Now, the Gaddafi stick was the traditional weapon used by the Tusken Raiders, and as we know from the Book of Boba Fett flashbacks while Boba's in the Bacta tank, Boba Fett trained with the Tusken Raiders and was eventually accepted into their clan as one of them, which I find very interesting, and I hope we see that if there is a season 2, which, like I said, I very much hope there is. Anyway, Cad Bane is impaled and pierced through the chest with the spike of the Gaddafi stick, after remarking that Boba, like his father Jango Fett, the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy before Cad Bane and his prominent rise, was a killer. Now, this is a very interesting scene, and it's the topic that leads us into today's video. I personally do not believe that Cad Bane is dead. Dave Filoni, who was the head of this show and one of the main directors, he would not have brought back this incredible animated character just to give him the lamest death in 2 seconds, with Boba knocking him onto the floor and impaling him with a Gaddafi stick. I don't think Dave Filoni would do something like that to the fans. Cad Bane is definitely one of the most well-received and badass characters in all of Star Wars, in the Clone Wars in particular. He's my favorite character in the prequel era, even better than Darth Vader, which I know would anger some people, but anyway, it's my opinion. And when Cad Bane is impaled, we can see that while he is being stabbed, he releases an odd sound, not a sound like a scream like you would normally and typically hear when you are impaled. He sort of protrudes a sound that's similar to a hot air balloon or a balloon, and all the air of the balloon is being let out, which I find very interesting, seeing that he didn't die like normal people would if he got impaled. It's very interesting. It's very interesting in my opinion. And yet, I personally don't think Cad Bane is dead. And what I further believe, and the reason I'm so supportive of this theory and so authentic about its belief, is mainly due to the fact that after this we can see a button glowing and blinking a light crimson colour. Now, this is on Cad Bane's coat, which is a trademark about his appearance. It often sways when he walks, like when he gunned down Cobb Vanth in the 6th episode, which personally is my favourite episode in the entire series. Don't know about you. Leave your opinion on Book of Boba Fett in the comments below. Anyway, I don't think Cad Bane is dead, and mainly due to the fact that his breathing tubes that protrude into his neck, they actually go down his throat, because during the time of his Clone Wars, which was essentially Cad Bane's peak in bounty hunting, he was considered like the best, because Jango Fett had recently died in the Patronaki Arena during the Battle of Geonosis to Mace Windu, who was commonly regarded as the champion of the Order. Cad Bane specifically arsenaled his arsenal to take out Jedi, and that's really what he did. He went and fought up against Obi-Wan Kenobi and Quinlan Vos, two very highly esteemed and powerful Jedi Masters who I really want to see more expanded on in the future, especially Quinlan Vos. We don't know where he is, but we know canonically that he survived Order 66. Anyway, the breathing tubes that Cad Bane has are designed to help him from being force choked. Obviously, during the Clone Wars, there was a lot of Jedi, and while the Jedi are typically not associated with this ability, Cad Bane knew that his main employer was Dooku and Darth Sidious. He was contacted by Sidious directly, which is a very great honour, in my opinion, and in all of Star Wars lore, only few beings have ever been given that honour. And he knew that the Sith, who were his main employers and suppliers, they employed this ability a lot, and they utilised it during combat. So if Cad Bane ever, well, I'll say it this, if Cad Bane ever disobeyed or failed to bring in his bounty, which is Cad Bane, so it's very unlikely, but if he ever did, then he could protect himself, because even Palpatine, he most likely couldn't use this ability long distance. He could use this ability long distance. He could use Force Choke, but he couldn't use an ability like Force Lightning. And Force Lightning being Palpatine's staple ability and the most famous dark side ability, in my opinion. And that's personally why I don't think Cad Bane is dead. I think the light on his chest is signaling for his droid, Toto 360, a techno service droid we saw in the Bad Batch and during the Clone Wars TV show, to come pick him up and throw him into back to temp, similar to what's happening to Cobb Vanth. But I don't believe that Dave Filoni would bring back this very highly esteemed and very well loved and hyped character from the Clone Wars. His main work, his child, the Clone Wars was. and just give him the lamest death. I don't think this is the last we'll see of Cad Bane. If it is, I wish they had have done his death better, and I'll be doing a video about how I would have done Cad Bane's death if they did his death in this TV show. Anyway, that's essentially it. Thank you for tuning into this video. Be sure to smash like and strike down the subscribe button if you wish to ascend to the rank of Master. It is your destiny. Goodbye, acolytes and mercenaries of the galaxy, and hopefully you will not be on the receiving end of my blaster pistol today. Greetings, dark side abominations, skillful mercenaries, and light side knights, and welcome back to the archives of our channel. I have been expecting you. Today we shall be delving into the in-depth history and weapons and equipment that the most best and feared bounty hunter in the entire galaxy used, in my opinion at least, Cad Bane. Cad Bane was a bounty hunter whose prime era reigned from the Galactic Republic through the Clone Wars era, going on many missions assigned personally by Darth Sidious and Count Dooku, the two prominent Sith Lords of the era. It was very unknowing and not very common for Sidious to ever contact with any Separatist sympathizer, so the fact that Cad Bane was given direct contact through holo videos to Sidious was incredibly rare, and showed the esteem that the Sith Lord held the bounty hunter in, showing that even Darth Sidious had respect for some people, and Cad Bane was certainly one he thought was an incredible tool and extremely efficient to be moving around. Cad Bane possessed an arsenal and array of equipment that is unique in design, functionality, and many other trades, being able to project flame blasts, being able to stun even the most powerful Jedi Masters, like Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jedi Master Quinlan Vos, into submission using his wide array of gadgets, toys, and trinkets that he used a long time into the reign of the Galactic Empire, and through the reign of the Galactic Republic up until the end of the Clone Wars. As a Derosian, Cad Bane bore twin crimson eyes and sapphire blue skin, standing at roughly 1.85 meters tall and weighing 75 kilograms in weight. Cad Bane became one of the best, most skillful and proficient bounty hunters in the galaxy, following the demise of his mentor and the mentor of his later rival, Boba Fett. Following Jango Fett's demise, he became the greatest bounty hunter and gun for hire in the entire galaxy, cold, cruel, calculating, and calm, and capable in his line of work more than any other bounty hunter. Bane cared little for the sinister motives of his employers, such as the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, the Hutts, and the sinister motives that Count Dooku orchestrated. Bane, despite the fact that his new pupil was very descended from his own mentor Jango, he did not take any liking to Boba Fett at all. He was very abusive when he trained him in the art of gunslinging and in the art of being a skillful and well-trained mercenary, which made Fett remember his harsh adolescence on his part that he had no mercy in killing his former mentor during the events of Book of Boba Fett, or at least what we theorized to be death, as Cad Bane very well could have survived this encounter and could still be wandering around the galaxy after sustaining his life in a Bacta tank. He even told Fett to only look out for yourself and that anything else was a liability, and nothing mattered except your own safety, and everything else was weakness. Cad Bane was a very cunning, conniving, and strategic individual. He often proved capable of outsmarting others such as Jedi and other criminals and bounty hunters. He showed impressive strategic ability and was more than capable of orchestrating and leading a team effort despite his preference of working alone, as he believed others slowed him down, despite the latter's proficiency in the abilities, and the other bounty hunters being quite skilled in their own right. Bane's accomplishments and feats during the Clone Wars, many had a detailed Republic file in the Republic records. Bane had something of a quirk when it came to wide-brim hats, and which he heavily preferred wearing, as he saw helmets traditionally worn in Beskar by Jango and Boba Fett, and other beings such as Embo with his shield. It also doubled up as a hat, saw them as cheating, as it protected the wearer from any external head injuries, at least for the time being, if it was made up of a weaker material like Durasteel. If it was made up of Beskar, it was nigh impenetrable to anything in all of Star Wars. This desire was such he was willing to kill another bounty hunter in the attempt of getting another hat, because he liked the hat that he bore, being able to outdraw and out-gunsling him, despite him having the draw first over Bane. He also had a habit of chewing on toothpicks during his missions. Additionally, the hunter spoke down to those younger than him, using terms like son and little lady when he felt they fit to the scenario. In spite of his ruthlessness and brutality, he did apologize to Omega before he stunned her. Yet he continued with his mission nonetheless, not feeling any guilt or self-centeredness whenever he was about to brutalize or kill any being in the entire galaxy. Bane once reflected to himself that the young Boba Fett sometimes reminded him of his younger self as a Derosian bounty hunter, but their relationship eventually soured and dipped. As his age passed, Bane remained bitter and ruthless, killing any who stood in his way of his cunning and ultimate goal of getting credit. He attempted to strike down his former ward in Boba Fett, without mercy or discrimination against his former student. Bane looked at Fett with contempt for what had happened between them, determined to kill him even if he played dirty in order to get his ways. Cad Bane was a skilled bounty hunter, nigh unstoppable in the art, and in my opinion the greatest bounty hunter to ever live in all of Star Wars, surpassing Boba, Jango, and Dirge, and many, many others. Cad Bane relied on various weapons as well as wits to defeat his enemies, some much stronger enemies such as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Quinlan Vos, and many Jedi who he outsmarted and beat during the Clone Wars era. He stated to Fennec Shand during the Bad Batch Season 1, where the two mercenaries and combatants dueled for the custody of the genetic replication of Jango Fett Omega, saying that despite her innate skill and practicality in martial arts, but she lacked the experience to go up against Bane. He was fairly proficient in unarmed combat, holding his own in a fight with Fennec Shand using unarmed combat. However, in my opinion, Fennec Shand, with a mastery of martial arts, was more proficient in this ability than him. He was noted for his ability to combat members of the Jedi Order better than nearly any other bounty hunter in history, falling short only of Jango Fett, or possibly I could see them as equals. However, it is up to the eye of the beholder. It was a necessary skill during the Clone Wars, where he was employed by the Sith, and could have been discovered working for the Sith or working in league with the Sith, would have entered him in Republic jail. The prize for bringing Bane into the Jedi Order into custody was over 1 million credits, a ridiculous amount for a mere mercenary who normally just went about his business. Although he appeared to be less skilled than Boba Fett, as Fett disarmed him and stabbed him to death with his Gaddafi stick during the Book of Boba Fett finale, though this may have been due to Fett being much younger, due to the fact that Fett at this time was 41 and Cad Bane was already exceeding the natural lifespan of his species. The Duro species naturally lives for around 70 years, and during this time, Cad Bane was 71 years old, meaning that Cad Bane during his prime, in my opinion, is a better bounty hunter than Boba Fett. Due to his age, Cad Bane was still able to combat and be faster using his E11 blaster pistols than Boba Fett, proving that even in his youth, Cad Bane was more skilled than Boba, proving himself once again as a more proficient blaster user than nearly any other being in the galaxy. The combination of his jet boots, weapons such as the whipcord thrower and flamethrower, and knowing when he was outmatched in his mind and mental state, proved extremely useful in his numerous encounters with Jedi Knights and Masters. His work earned respect, and the respect of his enemies with his feats, even such as Jedi, as well as potential employers such as Count Dooku, gaining respect for the bounty hunter. He was also an exceptionally and innately skilled pilot, and flew the Rogue-class Porax 38 starfighter Xanadu Blood during the Clone Wars, after acquiring it, along with 3 times his usual rate from Count Dooku and Darth Sidious, after stealing a holocron from within the depths of the archives inside the Jedi Temple. After the war's end, he piloted the Justifier. Bane proved himself a competent leader and tactician during his time and leadership and military tactician times, leading several different groups of bounty hunters on multiple occasions, such as when he sieged the Senate building and attempted to kidnap Chancellor Palpatine. He felt that all clone troopers fought the same and was confident in using similar methods on Republic soldiers. approximately 5 years after the Empire's defeat at the Battle of Endor. Even at an advanced age, at 71, Bane was still extremely and immensely skilled. Bane invested Cobb Vanth and Boba Fett in their duels on Tatooine by drawing his fastest blaster, having been killed only because he was shocked and bewildered by Fett when he approached to kill his former student. Bane was able to outduel Cobb Vanth using his E11 blaster pistol. It should be noted Cobb Vanth had an exceptionally skilled draw, being able to kill 3 Pack Syndicate soldiers and nearly kill the 4th before any of them drew their blasters. An incredible feat. And Fett was also able, during the events of an unfinished Clone Wars episode, to keep up with his mentor Bane, being able to shoot each other at the exact same time during a gunslinger duel, causing Cad Bane to have severe damage to his head, and Fett's armor to have his iconic dent implanted within his Beskar armor, caused by his own mentor, Cad Bane. It was noted that if Boba Fett had not been wearing his dad's exploded armor, then he would have died to Bane, with Bane most likely killing him before Boba killed him. An incredible feat. Boba, even in his young age and his youth, was still inferior to Bane in blaster pistols, as Bane, despite exceeding the lifespan of his species, the Duros, was still more skilled than Boba Fett and possibly any other marksman in all of Star Wars history. Now, let's take a quick in-depth dive into the brief history and equipment that Cad Bane used during his tenure as a bounty hunter. Each of Bane's wrist gauntlets was equipped with a highly explosive and blast radius flamethrower. Cad Bane was known for wielding a pair of modified LL-30 blaster pistols with a high fire rate and a scope installed into the top, and wearing his trademark wide-brimmed hat that set him apart from other bounty hunters who preferred to wear helmets. He wore electro gauntlets with stunners and flamethrowers implanted into them in order to combat Jedi's lightsabers. After escaping the Republic Detonation Center, Bane equipped himself with a new pair of gauntlets and a Galar 15 blaster carbine on Nal Hutta in a gun shop. These weapons came equipped with a knockout gas that could discombobulate his enemies and incapacitate them just with a mere sniff. He also had breathing tubes implanted into his cheeks that went down his throat, which enabled him to survive being force choked, as it pumped oxygen from his breathing tank into his throat. Rocket boots helped him to keep up with the Force-imbued Jedi. His gauntlets were also capable of remote control and could operate many starship functions despite possibly not being even on the ship. Well, my friends, the last matter we need to address before we journey on the Justifier into a galaxy far, far away once again is Cad Bane's incredible marksman skills. Cad Bane was a better marksman than Cobb Vanth, Boba Fett, Han Solo, and many others, being able to outdraw Cobb Vanth when he approached Freetown and declared it a realm of the Syndicate, being able to outdraw Boba Fett, despite the latter having his blaster already drawn and nearly pointed at Bane, being able to kill him in the sands of Tatooine within Mos Espa. He was also able to outduel Boba Fett in the deleted Clone Wars episode, landing a hit on his helmet, an incredibly impressive feat considering Boba was around 30 years younger than Bane at this point. Cad Bane was an extremely skilled marksman, and when fighting Jedi in combat, he typically used his E11 blaster pistols to aim for the hilt, disarming them of their lightsabers, where he could go in and kill them with his blaster easily. He was also fluent in martial arts, being able to incapacitate and knock back Jedi Master Quinlan Vos and contend with Obi-Wan Kenobi. This proves Cad Bane, in my opinion, is still the greatest bounty hunter of all time. And if you disagree, make sure to leave your opinions in the comments below, as I love Star Wars because of the unique debates and opinions that everybody has, and that many people believe that the most powerful character is almost entirely different from another's most powerful character. Anyway, Acolytes, with that out of the way, I hope that you have enjoyed this dive into the equipment and skills and abilities that the best bounty hunter in the galaxy, Cad Bane, possessed. Cad Bane is in my top 3 favourite characters in all of fiction, being a skilled marksman and a ruthless tactician. Cad Bane proved himself and cemented himself as one of the greatest characters in all of history, and proved himself as one of the greatest bounty hunters cementing his legacy within the bounty hunter guide in the Star Wars galaxy, proving himself to be the greatest bounty hunter and marksman that the galaxy had ever seen. Goodbye, acolytes. Be sure to ascend to the Master and strike down the subscribe button. It is your destiny. And I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away.